Hi, and welcome to the Tranquil Cottage Knits podcast. I'm your host, Michelle. You can find me on Ravelry as Tranquil Cottage, and then on Instagram as Tranquil Cottage Knits, and you can find the blog at www.tranquilcottageknits.weebly.com. So, hi, everybody. I believe for the first time, I am not able to say Happy Sunday. Today is Tuesday, October 24th, 2017, and this is episode number 17. Normally I do podcast on Sundays, and this week I just could not make it. My friend Becky, who has the Wrapped in Wool podcast, she is Westerly Whimsies on Ravelry and Wrapped in Wool everywhere else. She and I had gone to Rhinebeck, and it was wonderful. It was just such a great trip, and I just kind of wanted to give my little recap of that and talk about the experience. So, I did not finish my Rhinebeck sweater in time. First of all, I had really planned to, and I was working hard at getting it done, and then all the weather reports talked about how unseasonably warm it was going to be. And so I realized what was the point in just, grinding myself down, getting this done, and then to not even really be able to be comfortable wearing it. There were so many people who had knit sweaters on, and I just felt bad for them because it was warm. It was really warm. So I'm okay with it. I didn't get it done. I will get it done soon. I'm excited to wear the sweater. That was Slinky Ribs by Wendy Bernard. And I'm looking forward to it, but I just wasn't making it for Rhinebeck, and I'm okay with it. Again, I really wouldn't have been comfortable. I get hot way too easy. I would not have been comfortable wearing it at all. So that's the first thing. Where am I? I am outside in the backyard with the dogs, as always. Callie and Tucker are over there scoping out the neighbors' dogs in their yard, and it's been a fun, barky morning. And no iced coffee yet, although I should really get on that because I'm not awake in the least. So Becky and I left on Thursday to go to Rhinebeck. It was a great drive. It was beautiful. The trees hadn't really come out much yet at all. And so I drove, and so we got there. I want to say we got there relatively early in the evening, and got our hotel room checked in, and we were all good. Got up, had a leisurely morning, Friday morning, and then went to Rhinebeck for Needles Up. Needles Up was awesome in so many ways. I'm going to go with the good and the bad. The good is that they were vendors whom I love and products that I love, and everybody was just amazingly nice. The line was huge, but everybody was just jovial and kind, and it's funny, I had to go move the car because of the parking time limits everywhere. And so I went to go move the car, and I came back, and Becky was like at the front of the line, and she was telling me that if she got to the front of the line, she's like, I would have had to go on without you. And I said, well, then I would have just become best friends with these people behind you, and I would have gone in with them. And we all kind of laughed about it. And that was Mary and Chelsea. And they are, they're so lovely. We kept running into them throughout the whole event. And so after that joke, we kind of started calling them our new best friends. And we got to hang out with them a few different times over the weekend. So hung out with Mary and Chelsea in line, and finally got into Needles Up. Again, waiting in line was wonderful. They let everybody in early, and they did it so amazingly well. They basically just started, they had a number of people that were allowed to be in the room. Obviously, you have fire codes and things. So they had a count of the people that they let in, and then if 2 people came out, 2 more people got to go in. If 5 people came out, 5 more people got to go in. So it was really beautiful the way they orchestrated it, and it allowed everybody to get very close to the booths and actually touch the items and look at the items and get, allow them to purchase their items. It was just extremely well done. So kudos to them. Kudos to everybody involved in Needles Up. And all of the vendors were just lovely and wonderful. And it was just, Needles Up was really spectacular. I had a great time. Now, the bad. The bad is actually a good. This was their first year. Needles Up is a brand new event, and they have already outgrown their space. I definitely believe in small businesses and supporting small companies and individually owned businesses, and I have to say that is an awesome problem to have from the jump, to have outgrown your space, to have already been so wildly successful that you don't have enough room for people to come in and buy your products all at once. That was awesome. So awesome. So their negative is a positive. Yes, venue was too small. No, it wasn't a problem. Everybody in line was just cordial and kind and wonderful, and I got 2 new best friends out of it. And it was handled spectacularly. So even though it was too small for the people they had, they handled it just, I can't say enough. They handled it spectacularly. I was really impressed. So we actually, Becky and I, got out of Needles Up before 3 o'clock when it was supposed to open. Now, having said that, I did not buy anything at Needles Up. I wanted to, but I was also being very conservative with the budget. And mostly I just wanted to experience the vendors who were there because they're, aside from Amy Beth from the Fats Girl Speaks, they were companies that I have heard of, seen, and appreciated the goods of, but had not had a tactile experience with their goods. So it allowed me to be very hands-on and kind of plan my Christmas list and things like that. So, but Amy Beth, I already have some of Amy Beth's bags, and I'm already very, very familiar with her product, and I know, I knew going in that she was incredible. So it was mostly just Tranquil Cottage Knits, being able to put my hands on her blanks and see what they look like, and if they actually look as good in person as the pictures do, which they do, totally. And so that was really lovely. The vendors were lovely, and the experience was great. We left Needles Up and drove pretty much straight to Indie Untangled. We just figured we had a little bit of time to kill, and we would just kind of hang out in the lounge and knit and wait for Indie Untangled to open up. That was a good move. It was already pretty darn crowded. It only got worse as time went by. At one point, there were people lined up outside down the hallway where the bathrooms were, and I was sitting right in that corner where the glass is. And so we were joking about how the people walking by, again, met up with Chelsea and Mary, and Chelsea is precious. She has I believe, an Etsy shop. I've got to pull out all my business cards and go through and look at all the people that I met, because it's so overwhelming when you're in the moment. But I believe it's an Etsy shop. She has You Dyed, EWEDYED, You Dyed Yarns, and on her business card is a hearse, which is kind of funny because I believe she is a funeral director. She's very punny. I love puns. And if you can hear the geese behind me, they're flying over the river, heading south. So Indie Untangled, with the people on the outside of the glass, we were all joking about how it's like a fashion show, so I was encouraging them to show us their hand knits, and and people were laughing and showing it off, and I got some business cards as people were coming around, which is really nice. And once we got into Indie Untangled, there's one item there I would have liked to have bought, but I didn't. And that was, I was actually specifically looking for some very bright, neon bright miniatures, some mini skeins. And I saw them, but they were on a table at Backyard Fiber, but I didn't see a price on them. And it was so incredibly packed. There was no room to walk, let alone purchase things. I know a lot of people did. God love you. Becky says I'm too nice and that I just need to be more assertive and shove my way through people. Quite frankly, it's yarn. I don't need it that bad. But Indie Untangled, I really feel, is at that tipping point where if they don't increase their space or do some crowd control, like maybe like Needles Up did, where they let X amount of people in when X amount of people come out. If they don't do something to start controlling the flow of people in, it's a cluster. I mean, everybody is jammed into everybody. There's, poor people who are disabled and they're on their scooters and they can't go anywhere. And then people are getting very frustrated with them at the lack of movement that they can do, because basically they're going to mow people down if they try to go, but then nobody will give them space to go. There were one of the vendors that I talked to, well, I didn't intend to talk to. I was looking at something at a booth, and one of the employees of the booth came up and informed me that a different colorway other than the one I was looking at was the better one because it had all these other colors in it, and that just kind of put me off. And the fact of the matter is, even if I had wanted to get that one, I couldn't because it was just too packed. So I also left Indie Untangled without purchasing anything. I heard a lot of people talking about Indie Untangled, saying that they love the event, they love the idea of the event, but it is so crowded and uncomfortable and hot and frustrating that they were probably going to scratch it off their to-do list next year, which I think is really sad. I think to limit small business owners to have an event that is so well catered to them and allows people who would not get the opportunity to put their hands on those products to actually feel them and see them. Knitters are very tactile people. We want to touch it all. But to have situations where customers are so frustrated that they look at potentially not returning to patronize those businesses at an event like this is really kind of sad to me. So I definitely think Indie Untangled either needs a bigger facility, or even, because the tables are fine. The table space, the space around the tables is fine. The problem is, once you add what feels like 400 people in there, there's just no space to do anything. And I couldn't get a good look at the products, let alone actually identify really who the people who worked there were and be able to hand them money. So I left Indie Untangled without anything, with more of a feeling of frustration than anything else. Again, I love the vendors that go there. I love their products. The crowd control is just, the crowds are just a little too much, and they're a little too aggressive. And out of the entire event, that's really the most negative thing that I had happen was at, I'm talking the entire weekend. The most negative thing that I had happen was people being a bit huffy and frustrated at Indie Untangled. That was my negative. So we left Indie Untangled and went and had a nice dinner at Olive Garden. We left there, went back to the hotel room and chilled out. and got up the next morning ready for New York Sheep and Wool Festival. We got there and we stood in line. As soon as the gates opened, they ushered us through. That was wonderful. I got to visit all the barns that I was interested in. And Becky had, told me, she's like, oh, your birthday present, it's somewhere there at Rhinebeck. I was like, okay. So I just had to find it. I was there for 2 days. We went both Saturday and Sunday. I did the Ravelry meetup both days. I did the podcaster meetup on Saturday. Everybody was wonderful. They were kind and they were fun and jovial, and just knitters are such an amazing group. They're also supportive and just really lovely, just lovely people. And so I had a great time. I did look at, I had wanted to see the 2017 Rhinebeck colorway from Miss Babs. However, before I ever even got over there, I mentioned to somebody that was one of my goals, was to see that. And they're like, it's already sold out. So I was like, oh, okay, no big deal. I saw a picture of it on Instagram. That was fine. I looked at a skein of yarn that I had liked at Neighborhood Fiber Company and promptly realized I had 3 of that colorway already here at home. And I never even attempted to even get into the Miss Babs booth. It was swamped. I found a colorway that I really loved it's called Sentinel at Into the World. It's really beautiful. But they had it in fingering weight, and I have so much fingering weight yarn. And I'm looking to do more projects and more product designs, pattern designs out of worsted. The dogs are being crazy. Out of worsted weight, and so I just wasn't into getting a fingering weight, so I passed that up as well. I did go in and pet and snuggle many, many sheepies and goats. If you follow my Instagram, then you would have seen that. And oh my goodness, that 3-month-old baby alpaca was amazing. I touched her head. It was so soft. It's like the softest thing I've ever touched. So that was lovely. And let's see. I did go sneak peek at my brain stopped. Knitting Outside the Box. That is a new book that is coming out, and the photography was absolutely gorgeous. It's a Bristol Ivy book, and so pretty, so pretty. So I went and took a look at that, and I just walked around and smushed a lot of things and touched a lot of things, and I did purchase something. I purchased a small wheel of brie for my husband and a jar of hot sauce for my husband, because he was at home taking care of the dogs and the cats and the rabbit. So I brought him that home. Other than that, my food and hotel and gas, that was it. I didn't buy anything else. I knit not a single skein of wool, not a single ounce of fleece, nothing. I didn't buy anything. So as far as the present I was looking for, that was somewhere there at Rhinebeck, I never really found anything. I had gotten to Dragonfly Fibers, and I love their stuff. I love their colorways, and it's funny. I had brought like 6 or 7 bags, knitting bags with me, because I didn't know what I might want to knit on. And so since I had brought all these knitting bags, I had popped one of them open. I hadn't looked at it in a few months, and there were these 2 skeins, beautiful, beautiful worsted weight in there. And so I was like, oh, that's pretty. I want to work with this other now. So I put it away, and so as I was sitting there at Dragonfly Fibers, I found this skein of yarn. I was like, oh, this is so pretty. Oh, wait, this is the same yarn I have in the bag at home. Well, at the hotel. I was like, I already had it. So the 2 yarns that I liked, there were tons that I liked, but none that I felt the desire to bring home with me. I actually already had them. And there was nothing else really that made my heart pound that much. I had last year I did not have the podcast, and I went into Rhinebeck with a pretty liberal budget and was like, this might be a once-in-a-lifetime event for me. I might never get to come again, so I'm just going to go and have a blast. And I did. And a lot of those yarns I still have not knit. So this time I was very much more mindful and said, something's really got to anchor me for me to bring it home. I mean, I've got to sit there and stare at it. It's got to really speak to me for me to bring it home. And nothing did. And everything that I found that I really loved, I already had. So I went into this knowing the budget was going to be small and conservative. But now having the podcast and now meeting so many other wonderful knitters, it was my opportunity to kind of get to know them in person, to get to see them. I went with 120 of my my business cards. I do a hole punch in it and tie a little like an organza bag that has some buttons in it and a couple stitch markers. I had 120 of those, and I left with a big fat goose egg. So I handed out 120 of my business cards with buttons. So I hope you received one. And I just really wanted to meet people. I wanted to meet people and talk to people and, network and find out about some new podcasts and let people know about mine. And that's really what I did. So even though I did not leave Rhinebeck with a yarn haul, I left having accomplished my goal and having left richer than when I went. So thank you to everybody who stopped to talk to me and introduce themselves, and everybody who, I had some people who were like, I've seen you, I know who you are, hi! So that was really exciting to me. And again, I started this podcast because I moved 2.5 hours away from my knitting group. And I didn't really have a knitting group or a knitting community out here. And I'm slowly working to build one. But I really missed having the conversation, showing my projects, showing what I was working on, bouncing around yarn ideas and, hey, I'm looking at working on this, and what do you think of these colors? And just I missed that. I missed having those conversations and having that to share. So that's why I started the podcast. And from the people that I talked to have seen it, I got a really warm reception. So again, thank you so much for being my community. And I hope everybody enjoyed their trip, whether they were at Rhinebeck or day tripping in their own house, in their own yarn room, in their living room, whatever. I just hope everybody had a really good time and a really good weekend. And I guess that's it. 23 minutes for a Rhinebeck update? What? But I'm going to go ahead and get this uploaded. It should be, it'll definitely be up today. And I will, as the week goes by, I will try to go through all of my little swag bags and things that I got from other knitters and podcasters and link to them on the Ravelry page and my blog. But until I get that done, thank you again to everybody that I met, everybody who had just such a warm welcome, everybody who was just so positive and cheerful. It was really great meeting you all, and I look forward to meeting you again. Hopefully we'll get to do Rhinebeck again next year. But otherwise, have a great week. I will see you Sunday. Bye.